The crash of 2026, or so it says, all the new Bank of Japan experts out there on Twitter. In the event you haven't heard, crypto has been going lower because everybody is afraid of an increase in Japanese interest rates. Now, what you don't know is Japanese interest rates have been increasing for some time in their bond market. And yes, they have epic problems. But this idea of the rate increase, which may or may not happen on Friday, is everywhere. Every YouTube channel and even political talk show hosts. And if they're not a Bank of Japan expert, they're talking to one. So if the Bank of Japan raises interest rates, it essentially raises the price of speculation, which, you know, they can't get enough of in equities. We're going to try some screen share, and we're going to come up with a game plan for the Bank of Japan on Friday, because after all, there are so many experts out there. We want you to kind of at least hear it from a guy who was in legacy before you hear it from somebody who's just engagement farming on Twitter. We're going to go over the TA and the critical charts. I will tell you the first critical chart. The first critical chart is Bitcoin dominance minus the stablecoins. Currently, that sits at 65%. So if you take the stablecoins out of the equation, Bitcoin is 65% of all of crypto. And that metric is at the apex of a symmetrical triangle. So whichever way Bitcoin dominance breaks, right? If Bitcoin dominance breaks up, it's because alts got spanked on the Bank of Japan story on Friday. So if you believe the Bank of Japan is going to ruin Christmas, that's what's going to happen on Friday. Alts will get smashed. Bitcoin will probably hold in or wick down. Again, we have three scenarios we're going to go over. So before I go any further, I'm your host, Bill Noble. If you like research like this, we have Patreon, and we also have this channel, which we would appreciate if you would subscribe and hit the like button, right? Hitting the like button helps me help you. Now, back to our scenarios. We will discuss the Bank of Japan. We will also discuss, actually, I'll discuss it right now, that I listened to an economist over the weekend, you know, some old fart like me. This guy was older, actually, talking about how tariffs don't create inflation. They don't. Remember, that was all over Twitter, right? Twitter started the year out, tariff experts. Yeah, tariffs don't create inflation. If anything, based on this little talk that this guy gave about a guy from a book by a guy who wrote all the big crash books back in the day, he says tariffs actually tighten liquidity. In other words, less money sloshing around, less business getting done. Now, I know the word liquidity is being thrown around because that's another Twitter expert topic. But this guy says the Fed is way behind the curve on cutting rates. In other words, this is the first time I've heard a case for 100 basis points worth of cuts from anybody but the Orange Man. So very interesting that, you know, one of the reasons that Bitcoin could be lower is that things out there are just too tight in America, not in Japan. So, of course, Powell is going to be too late to everything. That said, when they wake up, that will be a big day for crypto. Now, is that going to be Friday? I don't know. Everybody seems to think it is. Now, when we talk about charts, even though it's a little hard to share in this medium, I'm going to do it anyway. So over the weekend, Wintermute, that was the company that was hurt by the big Binance crash. They were liquidating, but very interesting that you now have a 13 bottom on the Bitcoin daily chart, thanks to that liquidation. And that happens to match up with the 13 bottom that you have on the 4-hour chart of Bitcoin from back over here. You did the 13 bottom, and then, of course, we had to take it down here to make sure everyone was out. Now, when it comes to these bottoms, because, again, that's the title of the stream, right? Everyone's negative, but hold on. So when you have everyone negative, everyone looking for a giga crash, everyone talking about an event that is most likely priced in everywhere, when you have these 13 bottoms, really what it takes is one good reversal up. Now, will you get that reversal? You may not get it today, but you could get it Friday. Or here's another scenario, and this is, from our Gann model, an example of what we do in Patreon, that currently we're showing a 35% probability of a wick off the Bank of Japan news to 82 and 78 worst case. Now, I know that's horrible, but that's a 35% chance. That's what everybody is thinking. Okay. Now, there's also a 40% chance that the market is in a range, which we discussed, between 88 and 98. Okay, the model now thinks maybe 85 to 92. That seems to be the range we're in right now. But, if the entire planet is freaking out and Bitcoin is really in a range, do you really want to get that negative? Do you really want to call for the crash of 2026? Yeah, there's going to be a problem in the first part of the year. Sure, I know. But let me just run some quick things by you, just for your information, okay? Now, this blue line is the Bitcoin hash rate. And this black line is the Bitcoin price. And this tweet says, the only metric you need to understand for Bitcoin's adoption is the hash rate. Hash is the physical world committing real energy and capital to secure the network. It reflects miners deploying hardware, and essentially it's the only on-chain metric that matters. So they want to wick it down to 78 or 82. Terrific. Great. Honestly, that kind of panic is probably an opportunity because this may be a little harder to see, but this blue line is Bitcoin. And this candlestick chart is Goldman Sachs, my former employer. And as you can see, Goldman Sachs is having a great end of the year because Goldman Sachs' stock is vertical while Bitcoin is down and everyone thinks it's going to crash. So much for long Bitcoin, short the banks. It has been the other way around. Now, you probably don't need me to tell you that you've been living with the indignity of stonks up, crypto down. However, that does reverse itself. It does reverse itself. Maybe it's Friday. Maybe we have a little Santa rally when everybody gets caught being negative. I mean, seriously. The political commentators, they covered the thing in Australia and they covered the Bank of Japan. Everyone is a Bank of Japan expert. And that makes me wonder if they really understand that the Bank of Japan chickens out a lot and that they really don't want to ruin Christmas. So can you have a lot of volatility? Yes. Is Wintermute liquidating? Yes. Is the market able to really mount any type of sustainable rally? No. I get it. But if you get a wick down, it may be just that. It may be just a wick down, right? It's not a broken market. And I will note, I'm just gonna be straight, and I'll give it to you in 2 sentences. The real buying opportunity is an overreaction into the 70s. In other words, if they lose their mind on Friday, the overreaction into the 70s is a buy because that eliminates the need to have to do the 70 print next year on the inevitable bank failure. That's my opinion. Now, the real upside risk, the real risk is a policy surprise in a thin Christmas market. Because again, everyone is bearish. Everyone is calling for the crash of 2026. Everyone says the cycle is over. See you in October. Seemingly the cycle was over in January when Michael Saylor was on the front cover of Forbes. That was the end. And we've been living with the end ever since. By the way, that's a short video that's like off the charts. Anything bearish is now off the charts. It's kind of funny. By the way, we want to welcome Crypto Billy to the stream. Make sure you follow Crypto Billy on Twitter and on YouTube. A guy who knows what's up. Now, if the Bank of Japan scares the market, okay, Bitcoin will probably flush first. And that flush could be an opportunity because as I just showed, between Bitcoin and banks or Bitcoin and stonks, Bitcoin has already gotten smacked. Now, on that note, there's an endless group of macro guys who are very smart, who are essentially saying that Bitcoin is down because people don't want to take risk, because there isn't enough liquidity, or everyone's afraid of ... Now, again, with the price action, it's hard to argue. However, I can argue with the Bank of Japan fear being everywhere. I think of Bitcoin as a currency. It's part of the foreign exchange market. You have industry, the mining industry, as I just stated, committing massive amounts of capital. We got more people trying to commit capital to Bitcoin than we have people trying to mine gold, which, you know, I will discuss the real black swan that's out there in a minute in silver. Don't let me forget. Okay, but people are committing capital to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a currency. It's a part of the foreign exchange market. Now, I understand historically it's nothing more than a risky asset. Like it's like leverage NASDAQ. Okay. Yeah, again, I want to take the other side of everything that's all over Twitter. I really do. I don't want to be a mindless moon boy, but I want to think of downside as opportunity, not as the end. How can it possibly be the end of another form of money when Uncle Sugar has to refinance $9 trillion in debt next year? And the Fed is 100 basis points behind the curve on cuts and QE. You won't believe in the 10 surprises for next year, which we have both in Patreon and the YouTube member area, what our monthly number is for QE. So top 10 surprises, right? And then the Bitcoin roadmap, little helmet action. You won't believe our number for QE. The old number in the days was $85 billion a month. $85 billion a month. We did it. And Japan, which is 1/3 of our size, also did $85 billion US equivalent or Japanese equivalent every month. So they did 85 billion. We did 85 billion. You won't believe what our number is just for the United States. It's huge. So you got all these people, all of these people buying stonks, you know, worried about the Bank of Japan. Again, the Bank of Japan can have a huge impact, okay? But think about it. It's everywhere. Like, it's being blamed for the Nvidia top. Seriously, ZeroHedge, I don't know if I can share it. By the way, let me know in the comments if you like sharing. Yeah, I can't do it. Okay. Literally, the Japanese shock, the AI shock where Oracle has collapsed and Nvidia has topped is being blamed on the whole Japan thing. Now, again, the yen is very important for speculation, and I get it. But aside from some panic wick, do we really want to punish Bitcoin? Do we really? And this, of course, says nothing about things like XRP, where, as one person noted, every piece of good news in crypto gets sold. I feel like I'm living in like a parallel dimension. You know, back when Gensler was in power, every dip was bought. Now all the news is good and every rally is sold. It's truly bizarre. Now, let me give you a lesson from gold, and then I will tell you what the real black swan is. The lesson from gold is that those guys lived with the indignity of multiple monster Bitcoin rallies, while gold did absolutely nothing. They saw the moonshot in 2017. They saw the moonshot in 2021, and they saw a 2-year bull market in Bitcoin before anything that they owned moved. We're talking about 10 years. So if they waited 10 years, we can wait 10 days, 10 weeks. Hopefully we don't have to wait 10 months. But if we do have to wait 10 months, it's going to be the biggest rally anyone's ever seen, ever. Because again, Bitcoin is a currency in a world where currencies have got their problems. Let's just put it that way. Now, silver, the black swan. We're in the middle of a silver panic. It's been the worst kept secret in precious metals markets literally for 20 or 30 years that there is nowhere near the physical metal to deliver to everybody who owns paper silver from futures or ETFs. There's just no way. And it is possible that the COMEX exchange, where they trade the precious metals futures, may run out of silver. There may be a default where somebody goes, I want silver, and the COMEX goes, we don't have it. Now, that's the problem you should be talking about. If there's a reason to worry, that's the reason to worry, and let me tell you why. First of all, there are banks in between counterparties. So if somebody defaults, it's on a bank. That's number one. Number two is that if you have a problem with an exchange, right? In other words, like the COMEX can't deliver, are people going to lose confidence in other futures contracts? Like the gold contract or the oil contract or the Bitcoin contract? If there's a problem, that's the problem. I don't think it's the Bank of Japan because, again, it's the most talked about news item and it's 5 days away. It's 5 days away. So can the market freak out for 5 days? Yeah. But if COMEX goes down, okay, that's a problem on one hand. On the other hand, it brings in the Fed, which is why I keep going to this whole wick down is an opportunity thing. But an exploding silver contract, I'm interested in a reversal of the whole bank Bitcoin, let's call it the setup, right? In other words, everybody is mooning bank stocks and killing Bitcoin. No way. It's like giving up on Bitcoin now would be like when Peter Schiff was going to give up on gold, right? He just kept saying it's gold and Bitcoin sucks and whatever it is that he said. Now he's got 1 million followers because now he looks like a genius. But, say what you want about the guy. He stuck to his view. And now it's our turn to live with the indignity. Okay. So we're living with indignity. So what? Right? In other words, are you really going to puke out Bitcoin at 80 or 70 when this thing could turn around on a bank failure next year? And even if there's volatility, could go up a lot. And I'm also wondering, again, once the Bank of Japan thing is over with, if that doesn't end the world and there's no black swan in the metals market, does that not bring in the Fed for a Christmas Santa rally? In other words, no one is like the Bank of Japan is some like zero event horizon. It's like the black hole. Bitcoin, everything goes into the black hole and nothing ever comes out. I'm like, all right, well, when that news event is over, after the algos trade it, then what? You're going to sell Bitcoin at 85K or whatever it's at? Or is there even a remote possibility that they squeeze it up to 98 or 100? Right? Enzo says, I'm not puking out anything. And Jimmy says, I'm the problem. Okay, well, I don't think I'm the problem. I provide research. However, I am very happy because you know what? You're not getting anywhere on social media unless someone is hating on you. The problem is that the negative price action has caused people to lose focus on what's really important, like you may need Bitcoin and crypto a year from now as a survival mechanism against broad-based currency devaluation. I'm not the problem. Government debt is the problem. And what they're going to have to do to fiat currencies in order to issue government debt. For example, they're going to have to proliferate stablecoins. Everyone has forgotten about stablecoins. JP Morgan has a money market fund on chain. You can't have stablecoins without a money market fund, a place to deposit the stablecoins. These things are going to proliferate massively. Not to mention the fact that you're going to have QE at stratospheric levels, as we detail. We have it in the YouTube member area and we have it in Patreon, right? Right. Maureen, much respect to you too, sir. Much respect to our YouTube members. Don't forget about Crypto Billy, Hal Lopez from Florida, MJ Hits, Alpha Video first on the stream. We definitely appreciate all the people coming in on YouTube and on TikTok. It's never over when everyone thinks it's over. And one of the things I really like about CoinDesk this morning is that they call crypto a market waiting for a catalyst. So stonks and Bitcoin could be an accident going someplace to happen. I think we all saw the price action over the weekend. We saw it. However, does that make you want to liquidate? You know what? It probably does. I'm sure it does. It freaked me out. I was like, hey, Alexa, where's the price of Bitcoin? She's like, it's worth $88,000. I'm like, what? Shut up. And then, oh my God, I forgot about Michael Saylor. What is with this guy? So maybe this is like, it's like some kind of like Bitcoin psyop. So he puts himself in the ocean, clinging to a raft with the Titanic going down in the back, which was bizarre, right? and then Bitcoin goes from 100 to 80. Then on Friday, with a cringe factor of 10 out of 10, he posts a meme of him at McDonald's doing fries, going, I will work for Bitcoin. I'm like, Mike, you just got done running around Abu Dhabi, being like the royal statesman of Bitcoin and skyscrapers. Like, who's posting this stuff? Is it some market maker who like has to fill your orders and wants the market to go down? I mean, who's doing this? Every time you get these bearish Michael Saylor tweets, it seems like the market follows. I'm like, dude, you bull posted it at a crypto conference, and then you're talking about working at McDonald's. No wonder everyone's freaked out. No wonder the political commentators. I mean, the political commentator, whose name I probably can't mention, he's reading off an article, and he didn't realize that the article was about the Bank of Japan and Bitcoin. He was trying to talk about the Bank of Japan and the stock market. That's right. I mean, that's how pervasive the whole Bank of Japan trade is. What happens when it's over? Again, the Japanese 2-year note, the Japanese 10-year note, the Japanese long bond. These things are all at like multi-decade highs in terms of like the yield and how much their bond market has gone down. Rates up, bonds down. That market is beginning crushed for over a year, well over a year. And now all of a sudden it's front page news. Yes, the Bank of Japan could do some damage if they came out and were super hawkish. The last time they tried to be hawkish, literally it was August of 2024, and ETH went down 40% over a weekend. I can't believe they want a repeat of that, particularly with everybody calling for the crash of 2026. And like I said, even if you do get one, if you do get a wick down, 70 now eliminates the fear of 70 later. Now, I know that's insane because, your P&L and my P&L will look horrible in that case, right? Enzo says invest in water. I agree. I agree. But, nobody is talking about the $9 trillion in debt that we have to refinance. And everybody is talking about, again, events overseas. So, Ethereum sits below where it was at FTX. Zcash is holding 400. And I still can't believe XRP below $2 and Solana at 132. It feels like we're in the basement. I mean, are we going to the sub basement? Well, maybe. Okay. But you do have to hold out some level of hope that if they wick it down or if Wintermute does its final puke, that this thing can recover. Now, if you're wondering who Wintermute is, in the October Binance crash, when essentially the entire cryptocurrency market ceased to function, a big market-making firm called Wintermute is most likely got a serious problem or is out of business and is being forced to liquidate massive amounts of crypto, which is why the market can't rally, right? We've wrapped a narrative around forced selling that we cannot see related to that event. It's as simple as that, right? And if altcoins get wrecked, that's why. Because if you have a big market maker indiscriminately liquidating into a thin holiday market, that's how you get your crash that so many people are talking about. And I don't want to be disrespectful of other people's work. I just want to be smart about, an event that they're talking about. No one was talking about it, and now everyone is talking about it. And in many ways, it's already priced into the Japanese government bond market. If anything, honestly, I can see the decoupling reassert itself in the other direction. In other words, we've lived with the indignity of Goldman Sachs up, Bitcoin down. That can reverse. My partner in the YouTube member area, Toby's been calling for the decoupling for 2 years. Now, she's right. We got the decoupling, and we also got it stuck in our ear because it was Bitcoin down, stonks up. But that can reverse. And I don't hear anyone talking about that. Nobody. Everyone's like, oh, crypto's going to zero. It's over. And even if you want to talk about stonks, you should pull up a chart of Oracle, right? Big AI play, absolutely falling out of bed. I mean, like, Oracle is crashing. Now, everyone's like, oh my God, the AI bubble is bursting. Okay. Well, as one commentator said, there's going to be a delay between revenue from AI and what they have to spend on it. Now, I'm not giving Oracle I'm not giving any AI stock any more love than it may deserve, because the stonks are overinflated and the cryptocurrencies that no one owns are completely underrated and underpriced. In other words, when they come out of Oracle, what are they going into? Or if everyone freaks out about Nvidia, or if it's not chips anymore, that's not the new trend. Where are they going? Where are they going anyway? Right? Well, I don't know. They're going to go into silver. Okay, yeah. All the money that's in Nvidia and Oracle is going into silver? No. I mean, yes, they're underinvested in gold and silver too, which I think is going to be epic for Bitcoin next year. In other words, one thing about gold and silver, as a random aside that no one talks about, is that the general public is massively underinvested in GLD and SLV, the gold and silver ETFs. They're massively underinvested, which, is really funny what could happen if they catch up. And it's insane to think that Bitcoin is not going to go with that as a hard asset. Because again, Bitcoin is a commodity and it also is a currency. It's not levered NASDAQ, even if that's what the chart says. And even if they spank it on Friday, or even if they can't rally it today, because it doesn't seem like it has much of an interest in going above 90, my screen works. I get it. But a wick down could be an opportunity. And even if everything I've said is wrong, be careful of consensus thinking. Right? If everybody gets one way, if everyone expects the same thing, something else happens. Enzo, welcome from Australia. S. Rose, Crypto is an unpleasant experience. Yes, I agree. It is an unpleasant experience. Okay. Breaking news, Saylor buys $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. I don't know if that's true or not. Crypto Princess is here. Welcome, Crypto Princess. You definitely want to follow her on her YouTube channel and on her Twitter. Check that out as one of the most underrated shows out there. It's a very, very British, very, very intelligent way to look at crypto versus your loudmouth New Yorker style here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to check out our Patreon and the links down below. We will see you tomorrow.